There are a number of human rights treaty bodies that derive their powers from the treaties adopted under the auspices of the UN that created them. Alongside the 1966 covenants, there are a number of other core UN human rights treaties. Each covenant or treaty sets up independent monitoring, staffed by independent experts elected by member states, and responsible for overseeing the operation of the treaty. The treaty bodies are as follows. Number 1, the Human Rights Committee, HRC, oversees implementation of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, 1966, and its optional protocols. The HRC's remit is limited to the Covenant and its protocols, and it is established by the ICCPR itself. Number 2, the Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, CESCR, monitors implementation of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, 1966, and its optional protocol. The CESCR was not established by the ICCPR. It was formally established in 1985 by ECOSOC, Resolution 1985/17, although it had already been established in the embryonic form since the ICCPR had come into force. Number 3, the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, CERD, monitors implementation of the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, 1965, ICERD. The CERD is established by the treaty. Number 4, the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, monitors implementation of the Conventions on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, 1979, and its optional protocol. Number 5, the Committee Against Torture monitors implementation of the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman, or Degrading Treatment. There is also a subcommittee on prevention of torture as established under the optional protocol to the Torture Convention. Number 6, the Committee on the Rights of Child, CRC, monitors implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Child, 1989, and its optional protocols. Number 7, the Committee on Migrant Workers, CMW, monitors implementation of the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of All Migrant Workers and Members of Their Family, 1990. Number 8, the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, CRPD, monitors implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, 2006, and its optional protocol. Number 9, the Committee on Enforced Disappearances, CED, monitors implementation of the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance, 2006. To understand the relationship between the treaties themselves and the treaty bodies, it is worth thinking about the generic structure of all the instruments listed above. The treaties all contain a list of rights that is common. What is not entirely common are the powers and functions of the treaty bodies and where they derive such powers from. In terms of commonality, one recurrent function that all treaty bodies have is that of in practice considering state reports. This is known as state reporting, and is a method of considering compliance with the treaty itself. It is always compulsory. The next issue is the treaties all establish the treaty bodies. They set out their competence and so forth. The exception to this is the CESCR, which is not referred to in the ICCPR itself, but has been established in practice and accepted by all states party to the Covenant. Each treaty, with the ICCPR being the exception, sets out criteria for membership of the treaty body it establishes. The numbers of members, frequency and length of meeting, and so forth, although many of these have changed through practice over time. Thus, the number of members of a treaty body has in some cases been enlarged as more states have become party to a particular treaty, so as to allow the treaty body to carry out its functions more effectively than it would otherwise. The next issue is the other powers of the treaty body in question. As noted above, all consider state reports, as all states who are party to the treaty are obliged to submit them. Another power to a treaty may have is to consider individual communications or individual petitions. This is akin to a sort of judicial process where an individual can make representations to the treaty body that a state is violating that individual's rights as protected by the treaty itself. Whether this power should exist and with regard to which UN Human Rights Treaty has been a subject of enormous contention and dispute.